Hey, I've been getting questions about draw stroke mastery and the sub-second draw stroke training, and so I wanted to cover some of the reasons why a fast draw stroke is so important. I want to clear up a misconception. It's not about quick draw competitions. It's not about gaming. It's not about dueling. What it's about is developing technique that is smooth enough and efficient enough and consistent enough that when you add the chaos of a real life situation onto the top of it, it won't fall apart. Murphy won't find 21 ways to screw up your draw stroke because it is so smooth and consistent and practiced that you can execute it subconsciously. You can execute it as a conditioned response, as a reflex. It's automatic. When you get to that point, you can start adding complexity to the base level skill and it doesn't fall apart. So that's what we're going for. That's why a sub-second draw stroke is important and something that you should want to get. And it's easier than you may think. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm 21 feet away from a torso-sized target, and I'm using a UTM gun because, number one, the backstop, we've got all sorts of fires in the area, and the air is pretty nasty, and there just aren't that many places where I can shoot right now with live fire where I can move around on film. So we're using UTMs and shooting here. The other thing is, it kind of brings up a great point, and that is that when you're shooting at these ranges at this size of a target, you can use dry fire and call your shots, you can use a laser, you can use airsoft, you can use pellets, you can use UTM, or you can use live fire. They're all going to deliver rounds to about the same point of impact, and so because of that, it makes sense to use the safest possible training method for the majority of your practice. It's also going to be cheaper, it's going to be easier, and it's going to be quicker. And what that means is you want to do the majority of your draw stroke practice with dry fire, lasers, airsoft, etc. And then UTM is a great intermediary between airsoft, laser, dry fire, and live fire. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna just hit the timer and engage the target from the holster. All right, that was 0.82 seconds. Sometimes I'm about 1/10 of a second faster than that. Sometimes I'm 1/10 or more slower than that. But the consistent, efficient draw stroke will get you into a range and get you to where you're not screwing up and muddling up big aspects of the draw stroke. And again, it's something you want to do at first with dry fire. Get the reps in slowly and then get rid of all the wasted movement and gradually increase from dry fire to airsoft and pellets and then UTM and then live fire. And that's an important thing. When you're pushing speed, stick with dry fire, laser, and airsoft. And then when you're switching over to live fire, back off a little bit. What you want to do is focus on consistent, resilient technique. The speed is a great way to determine whether or not your technique is consistent and efficient. If it's not consistent and efficient, when you ramp up the speed, it's going to fall apart. And it's going to become random and it's going to look ugly. But the more consistent and efficient you are with your technique, you're going to find that it takes less effort to shoot quicker. Now, that was a 0.82 draw and engage from the holster, from outside waistband. It'd be quicker if I was using a thigh holster, but it's a waist holster, and I'm happy with that. The important thing to realize is I've got slow reflexes. I have done a lot to improve my reflexes. On a good day, I have average reflexes. I'm not blessed in that regard. I'm not a fast person. I never have had a ton of fast twitch muscles, or they haven't developed, or I haven't developed them. I'm not sure which it is. I'm not nearly as fast as I used to be. I'm past my prime as far as strength and speed. Not in bad shape, but not in my prime. Even with those things working against me, I don't have the genetic factors in place to make me fast. I had to focus on efficient and consistent technique and eliminating wasted movement, ruthlessly eliminating wasted movement. But what it allowed me to do is, with average at best reflexes and average at best speed, have a pretty darn fast draw stroke. And you can too, and that's the whole point of the draw stroke mastery program, is step by step how to chip away at it and speed up your draw stroke regardless of your natural ability. But let's go back to this, the sterile shooting. You know what, there's application for that. It's a great fundamental skill, but what about when we add movement to it? What if we have to, or what if we decide to get off the X hard? So that was 0.92. And that was 0.87. So we can add complexity and still have a fast draw stroke, but there's a couple of key components to it. Number one, your core technique has to be solid. It just has to be. You cannot think about it at all. It has to be automatic. The second thing is, you want to gradually over time take that solid, sterile, stationary technique and add movement to it. And then you can get to the point where you can execute it on the move. So I'm going to do untucked here, because that's how most people are going to be in a concealed carry situation. And you may be appendix, which is quicker. You may be behind the back, which is usually a hair slower. This is a horrible setup on me. The Glock 17 with a shirt over the top. The shirt loves to catch on the grip. But let's see what we can do and see how well that core technique carries over to this situation. So that was 1.03. Let's try some movement with concealment. And that was 1.05. Let's go to the right. And that was a second even. So we can take that core level skill of static shooting on a target and add the requirement of concealment, add the requirement of getting off the X, and still shoot 1 second draw strokes. And it's not uncommon to shoot under 1 second. What about changing elevation? That's a bigger change on time than lateral movement, but let's see what it does. So 1.06. And again, you can see you can move behind a car, move behind cover of some sort, move behind concealment. Yes, my leg was sticking out still, but the main target that people were going to be aiming at was gone, and was still able to quickly put a round on target. What about multiple rounds? You'll notice that I am not rushing to get back to the holster. I am coming back into a high compressed ready, but that is because I am very comfortable shooting from high compressed ready at this distance. And if I need to, I can extend it back out. The one thing that you want to make darn sure that you do as you're practicing speed work is don't do a tactical reholster. And I mockingly call it a tactical reholster because you see people who will draw, shoot, and reholster, and they might do it in a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds, but they're doing it lightning fast. And that is a recipe for shooting yourself in the leg. And there are very few applications for an incredibly fast reholster. There is an application for a safe reholster, every single time you reholster your gun. So focus on safety over speed on the reholster. And let's see, so we covered static, we covered dynamic, we covered concealed dynamic, we covered changing elevations, and that's it for today. So if you have any questions, let me know. Go ahead and ask, and we'll get them covered. And in the meantime, look forward to seeing you doing the training and hearing your results. Take care.